people are so focused on meat. They're just really consumed with, where am I going to get my protein if I don't eat meat? Well, proteins are made up of amino acids. Amino acids are found in plants. So when you eat meat, your body has to break down the meat and get it down to the level of the amino acid before it can utilize that amino acid as a building block for your proteins in your body. So why not bypass all that breaking down and those waste products that build up in your body, which we're trying to lower, right? You can consume amino acids in the simplest form and have all the building blocks for protein that you need.
The Vidal Speaks podcast.
Episode 37, Valerie Warwick, Oncology Nurse, How to Individualize Your Alternative Cancer Treatment. Welcome to Vidal Speaks. My name is Deborah Vidal, former 11-year LPGA golf pro turned classical homeopath, certified plant-based nutritionist, and wellness coach. Each week here on Vidal Speaks, we bring you knowledge, inspiration, or natural remedies to help you take charge of your health and feel your best. I believe health is freedom and knowledge is power, so tuning in each week will give you the power to take steps towards freeing yourself from the chains that hold you back from having the energy to do all you want in life. No matter where you are in your journey of wellness, Vidal Speaks can help. I promise. Welcome back, everyone. Today, Valerie and I are going to talk about so many different alternative therapies out there for cancer. You know, there's so many treatments, really, but we need many treatments because cancer's a process. It's not a stagnant disease, and it's very important that people know when they get diagnosed with cancer that they have to do many things. As a homeopath, I never once and never will recommend that a patient only does homeopathy or only does juicing or diet. And the main idea you have to think about is building up your immune system. And this is a huge job if you have cancer, so it takes many different therapies to do this. For example, nutrition via juicing, supplements, clean, organic, plant-based diet. Then there's IV therapies to boost your immune system like high-dose vitamin C's and others. And then there's getting a lot of rest along with some mild exercise. There's lots of really important things. One of the things I never can forget to mention, because to me, it's one of the most important ideas of building the immune system and getting well, is the need of detoxing. You can do that via saunas, coffee enemas, juicing, colonics, supplements. And it's been shown that cancer can only be cured when the immune system gets built up so strongly that it can reverse that process and bring the patient back to health. It's a long journey, but one that can have fast initial effects, even in the most serious cases. And if you believe that healing comes from a strong immune system, then you have to ask yourself if you really believe in doing chemo as your doctor recommends, which fills the body with the ultimate poisons and lowers the immune system. Hey, if it feels right for you, then go for it. But if it doesn't feel right, try to stand up for what you believe in and hire someone like Valerie to support you and guide you. I told you guys all about Valerie last week and her training, so I'm not going to waste any time here to do that. But I just want to remind you to go to her website, mywellnesstutor.com, and give Valerie a call if you need support for your path back to wellness. Okay, and you know, as I say a lot of times, put those listening ears on and let's get on with the show. Hi, Valerie. Welcome back to the Vidal Speaks podcast. I'm so happy to have you back because I want you to share with the listeners the way that you help them individualize treatment for their very specific kinds of cancer. I know you wanted to talk about the differences, how Western medicine treats cancer and how alternative methods can be much more individualized. So let's get started, okay?
Thank you, Deborah. It's so great to be here with you today and your listeners.
One of the things that I wanted to mention is, when you have like a lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, or maybe you have colon cancer or breast cancer, they have certain recipes that they use for your type of cancer. So this is what is required by the medical boards. It's a recipe book. So you have this kind of cancer, you get this kind of treatment. This is pretty standard for everyone. There's not a whole lot of creative arts in the chemotherapy treatment field.
Yeah, so we call it cookbook therapy, right? It's this cancer, this recipe. This other cancer, this recipe.
Right. It's not personalized treatment to you and your cancer. No two breast cancers are the same. No two lung cancers are the same. No two colon cancers are the same. So allopathic medicine is talking about personalized treatment. They're very, very slowly, like a dinosaur, moving towards that, but it's not personalized. So one treatment may be more effective for one person with the same kind of cancer than it is for another type. There's no testing that they do to find what works for you. Now, they are doing some genetic identification for the targeted therapies. And we can talk more about that, but they don't take your tumor or your circulating cancer cells and test them in the lab to find out what works. So if you have an infection, you have a urinary tract infection, or you have some kind of staph infection or something, they'll take a blood sample, right? Or they'll do a swab, they'll send it to the lab, they'll find out what is the best antibiotic to use to treat your infection. And they'll come up with, so this is the best antibiotic. These other ones are resistant, but this one's not. We're going to use this one. They don't do that for cancer. They don't take your tumor. They don't take your circulating cancer cells from your blood and test them in the lab to find out what works. This testing is available for people, and they should know that this testing is available. Before you get any treatment, find out what's going to work for you.
Let's talk about that right now, because I know you recommend this. There's a couple tests that you recommend people do. And this testing that you're talking about is not only for cancer drugs, but it can also be for nutrition or like turmeric or other natural things if they would work for your cancer or not, right? Doesn't this lab offer that?
Right. The lab that I talk to folks about a lot is RGCC. They're based in Switzerland and Greece, and they can use tumor tissue or blood. Most of what they do is blood. You can have your blood sent over there. The first part of the test looks at how many circulating cancer stem cells per mil of blood you have. So that will give you a baseline of where you're at. They also look at all the chemotherapies, all the targeted therapies, like the monoclonal antibodies and the small molecule targeted therapies. They look at about 45 natural substances, and you can add up to 5 more natural substances with no extra charge. So you can look at what natural substances might be effective for you. And they also look at 72 tumor-related genes. And so the proteins on the outside of the cancer cell can be used as targets to shut down maybe some of the growth factors that are driving the cancer. So they can kind of take up that space on the outside of the cancer cell, shutting down the ability of the cancer to use those targets, use those proteins.
This kind of test, then when someone gets this done, they know in the end what chemo drugs would work for their type of cancer or have the best chance.
Right.
Or be more effective, we should say. It doesn't mean that it would work, but it would definitely be more effective. Same with the nutritional or natural things. You would know, like for one person, soy may be not helpful. Another thing, it might be, I forget, it's that part of the soy, genistein or something.
Genistein.
Yeah, it's one of the things they test for, whether turmeric would help or, frankincense. I don't know if they test for that, but it could be one of the 5 things that you could put on there would be great.
Yes.
Because that's a really good anti-cancer. What about cannabis? Do they test for cannabis oil?
They don't test for cannabis oil. I recently did have a client send over her blood with CBD and THC. It did get held up in France for a little while, but they let it through, and it did show that it was effective. Both were shown to be effective at treating her cancer.
That's such a great piece of information, though, for people to know. Wow, what a great test, huh? Do people ever do that test just to see if they have cancer?
Yes, and that's an important thing. There are other tests that are available. Oncoblot Labs does testing. It's an early cancer detection test. And there are some other blood tests that you can use to monitor for early detection. It can be used like in your yearly checkup. You could do an Oncoblot, or you could do a Nagalase, and you can see if you are starting to develop cancer years before a CT scan or an MRI will pick it up. These are early detection tools that absolutely should be part of a yearly physical, or done every few years or every 5 years to monitor, because cancer is much more easier to treat when it's detected early. So these early detection tools need to become a part of healthcare.
And is the Oncoblot a different kind of test than the one at RGCC?
Yes, the Oncoblot uses COX-2 protein expression to find cancer development. It's a simple blood test.
And would it be, is there only one thing they offer if a listener wants to go do that test? Is there a name of that test? Is there only one test that they do?
Yes, it's just the Oncoblot. Unless they're developing new things, I don't know. But as far as I know, it's just the Oncoblot. It's an early detection cancer test, and it checks for like 28 different types of cancer.
Great. Is it a prescription needed?
Well, yes and no. You can call them. They do have doctors on staff that will order it for you.
Great.
So you can go through them directly. Now, the Oncoblot doesn't tell you about the circulating cancer stem cells. It's a yes or no test. Yes, you are developing cancer, or no, you're not. And it'll tell you the type of cancer, whether it's breast or colon, so it's a good tool for that. And then if you do come back positive, then I would recommend folks look into the RGCC, get a measurement for the circulating cancer stem cells, and find out what are the best substances to start treating this. I don't recommend just the RGCC, because then we have to look at the whole body, measure the immune system, look at your cells, look at your B cells, your T cells, your dendritic cells. How robust is your immune system? Look at heavy metal toxicity. Are you burdened with heavy metals, which so many people are?
Yeah.
In fact, I did my heavy metal testing.
Did you do it through hair test or blood, or how?
I did it through the heavy metal challenge with the EDTA and the DMSP. And then I urinated into a big jug, and I sent a sample of that into the lab. And it came back. I was almost off the charts with aluminum and lead. I did have above recommended exposure to mercury, cesium, and of course, cesium. I've been around, we used to, have the radiation devices in people and would run into the room and run out, but so because I was having cognitive difficulties, like my brain is scrambled. What is going on? So I had to go get a heavy metal test, and I'm totally loaded with aluminum and lead.
So then what did you do?
I did 10 chelation treatments, which is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, that's just the beginning. So I did 10 of those, and I need to go back and continue that, either do it orally or IV. But you need to replace your minerals while you're doing that chelation treatment. So that's really important to find somebody that, if you're going to do chelation, make sure you're replacing minerals with that as well.
So when you recommend that people do this RGCC, is after they do the first one, the Oncoblot is it Oncolab or Oncoblot?
Oncoblot Labs. That's a separate, from the RGCC.
Okay, and the RGCC one, is that a test that people should do if they have no symptoms but are curious if they would have any high load of stem cells, or would you only really recommend that if the other one came out positive?
The thing about the RGCC, it won't tell you what kind of cancer it is. It'll tell you, okay, this cancer is coming from epithelial cells, so that could be anywhere in your body. So if you're not already diagnosed with cancer, but you just want to keep tabs, Oncoblot is what I recommend.
And how do you spell that?
O as in Ollie, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie, O as in Ollie, B as in Bob, L as in Lucy, O as in Ollie, T as in Tom.
Great.
Oncoblot Labs with an S.
Cool. That's a great piece of information for people to have. Now, what do you think about the mental emotional thing? Do you think people might not do it because they're scared to find out that they might have it, and as long as we don't know, we can live in denial?
Denial is a good place right now.
It's a hard thing to kind of get a diagnosis. I mean, just hearing the word cancer puts so many people in a state of absolute shock.
Right. But you just have to take a deep breath, just take a deep breath and let's find out.
And I always try to tell people when they're fearful of that, but you wouldn't probably do anything different than you're doing, only now you would know how to target it better. Like if you're living a healthy lifestyle and you're eating raw or vegan or juicing, I mean, you would just know what to amp up, and then you would do that test, like you said, to see which nutrients would work for you, and you would just start targeting more individually to what you found out. But I just see so many people crash when they see something positive, like genetic testing. I did a genetic test, and some people are saying, I don't want to know. I just don't want to know if I have that. But, now I was doing it more for that MTHFR gene, because that's becoming so popular to know that. And there's so many problems with that, especially in detoxing. And I work with a lot of patients to try to help them detox. So if you do have like the MTHFR mutation, then you don't detox very well. So it's really important to know then you should start doing things to help your body detox, because your body can't do it by itself enough. It's so important to know this kind of stuff. So do you ever work with this kind of genetic, when people have cancer, this MTHFR? Do you know much about this, or do you work with patients that have this?
I recommend that patients get the testing to find out, if they're detoxing properly, because this will affect the drugs that you take, right? If you're going to take drugs and you're not breaking those drugs down properly, it's going to cause problems. And even with hormone replacement therapy, if you're taking hormones and you can't break those hormones down properly, those bad metabolites are going to build up in your body, and that can drive cancer. So before you do stuff like that, you need to check. You need to check your detox pathways. Because I'm not a physician, I can tell them what substances help in that regard. And I'll point the way to, I'll let them know this is the kind of testing, this is the test.
Because now they do 23andMe or Ancestry.com, and then you can download your information into these other places that can give you the results and more specifics, but it's still very complicated. I did it, and I still, after trying to study and read it, I still barely know more than I knew when I started. So it's really, really difficult. I just know about the gene and the detox pathway. So this testing thing, that's really good. Let's segue into other treatments now that you use. So you start with the testing, and then let's say they get their results. Now what are some things you use with your clients that you're coaching in your cancer coaching?
Once they get the RGCC, I help them find doctors, that can help them in this regard. So RGCC, you get that information. They also make a vaccine using your blood that you can obtain from them that will help your own immune system fight the cancer.
Well, that's really cool, because we had a friend that had leukemia. She was a homeopath, but we took her blood and we made it into a homeopathic remedy and gave it to her, and she actually got better. And the doctor said, "You're spontaneous remission." But then she came home to her toxic environment because she had just put new carpeting in. And the smell from it was like carpeting that was good for the planet, but it was made out of Coke bottles. So it had this off-gassing. And
Wow.
she immediately got sick again. But amazing, her own blood as a remedy we made for her worked the best.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
Yeah.
that's really great. They do that at RGCC. They'll make you a blood vaccine. Fantastic.
Right. And then, you're going to look at your nutritional status. So you can do a NutriEval and look at any gaps you might have in your nutrition. And you're going to look at your immune system. You're going to look at any toxic burden you might have, whether it's viral, bacterial. You might have dental infections, which is a big one to look at. You might have mercury in your mouth. Everything that's placing a burden on your immune system. So once you gather your information and then you find out what's going to work with the RGCC, then you can create your treatment plan. And so then you need to find a doctor that can help you implement this treatment plan. So they're going to put together the natural substances that show to be effective. They're going to get those heavy metals out. They're going to restore the strength of your immune system. And once the infections are identified, you might have to remove some teeth. You might, a lot of Epstein-Barr. We know that lymphoma is caused by Epstein-Barr virus. Cervical cancer, is caused by the herpes virus. Throat cancers are caused by herpes. 38% of breast cancers are showing a bacterial component. So we need to identify this and remove those, restore the strength of the immune system.
And isn't throat cancer HPV?
Yes, HPV. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and how do people find this? Is this all through blood work, through RGCC? They determine all this?
No, you can do immunoglobulin testing. So that will help point the direction. So at the root cause, it's always inflammation, right? So the immunoglobulin testing it's kind of like detective work. So each kind of immunoglobulin points a different direction. It may be a food sensitivity you're having. You may have some viruses that you weren't even aware of. So that's a good place to start.
And is there a company that you recommend to do the immunoglobulin testing?
There's a lot of companies that specialize in immune testing. So there's some good ones out there. Genova Diagnostics does a lot of testing, but I know there's one at UCLA that does a lot of immune testing. Do you know of any that are?
I used a company called ALCAT, ALCAT. Now they do immunotesting, but it's mostly for foods and chemical sensitivities. And I don't think they do virus. I'm not sure now because they've really expanded. I'd have to look at that. But they
have really expanded.
They're a really good one for food because it's more an immune response to food, not an allergy test.
Right. And Cyrex Lab does that. Cyrex Lab does immune reactivity to food. So they do cooked food, raw food, and then food additives.
It's a good starting place when people are needing to get well with nutrition because it can be, when I did the ALCAT test, I was in the red zone for flaxseed. And flaxseed is such a healthy food. And as a vegan, I eat flaxseed. I wasn't overdoing it or eating it lots to be having immune response to it. But I took it out of my diet for 6 months and then I retested and I was still bad with it. So I took it out another 6 months. And since then, I've never had any problem with it. I eat it and I don't test bad for it anymore. But
oh, wow. That's interesting.
So it can change, your body can change. It's good to kind of do those every once in a while and know that you're not eating foods that are inflammatory.
Perfect. And that's such a good example of why testing is so important. Because the most often questions I get asked about are diet. And so what diet can I use? And it's like, well, just like there's no, one treatment that'll work for everybody or a combination of treatments that'll work for everybody because we're all unique. I was just thinking about that this morning too. There's no one diet that is perfect for everybody. And that's why testing is so important. Carrot juice might be something totally that you shouldn't do.
Right. I mean, for most people with cancer, they do carrot juice, but if carrots happen to be in your red list in a test like that, then it would be a food that you need to stay away from, and you'd be better off doing celery juice or something else. So juicing is a great thing. And I say that even as a vegan, a lot of people say, well, I don't believe a vegan diet could be for everyone. But I say, but just because you're vegan doesn't mean it's one diet for everyone. Some vegans need high protein. Some vegans do better with much more carbs and less grains. Some vegans really need to work hard to get a lot of protein because they don't feel good if they don't have a high protein diet. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I have found over all the years of being in the healing business is when people go to natural cancer clinics, like the ones that you see in Mexico and Europe, the first thing they take out of their diet is meat and dairy. Mm-hmm. So that tells you something about that can't be that healthy for most people now. Right. I know there's been a doctor that used meat for some cancer patients and did kind of ketogenic diet, but in the end, before he passed, he was writing that he was finding that it was a bit disappointing and he was getting more recurrences than he had hoped.
Was that Dr. Gonzalez?
Yeah.
You can be on a ketogenic diet
without a lot of meat.
Without meat. Yeah, without
right.
meat. Yeah.
So to me, I think that the meat has been studied so much, the protein of animals has been studied so much to be carcinogenic. That's what I thought too. Because some people just need more fats. And I've known people that totally are cancer free and had horrible cancers that used a vegan ketogenic diet. Exactly.
And so.
But see, that's what I mean. You might need more fat and other people need to take out their fat. And then you might need more protein and some people are better, more carbs, and some people not so good with too much fruit. Right. So, but I still think in a chronic disease state, whether it's cancer or other severe diseases, autoimmune diseases, that the vegan diet of some kind is the healthiest approach that changes more and has been studied to reverse more disease than any other diet. And until we have scientific studies where the paleo diet will reverse cancer, then it shouldn't be recommended because we have no studies that show that.
Right. And people are so focused on meat. They're just really so focused on their, where am I going to get my protein if I don't eat meat? Well, proteins are made up of amino acids. Amino acids are found in plants. So when you eat meat, your body has to break down the meat and get it down to the level of the amino acid before it can utilize that amino acid as a building block for your proteins in your body. So why not bypass all that breaking down and those waste products that build up in your body, which we're trying to lower, right? You can consume amino acids in the simplest form and have all the building blocks for protein that you need without consuming meat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that people don't say, where do you get your protein? I just keep saying plants, and more plants and plants, because there's plenty of protein. Just keep eating and vary your diet. Don't just eat 2 vegetables.
Right. Look at the gorillas, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty strong.
Yep. And it's funny, we have to eat the cow to get the nutrients from the grass that the cow ate. But really what we're getting is the grass that the cow ate.
That's right. So many hormones, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine you see that a lot with cancers, right? Because of that, what is it, IGF? What's that?
Insulin growth factor.
Yeah, insulin growth factor. That's such a, if it grows baby cows, it also grows cancer cells. Right.
And almost every RGC that comes back, that insulin growth factor is overexpressed because the cancer loves that, right? Cancer loves that. They need that to grow.
Yeah, when I interviewed D. Anthony Evans, you should listen to that podcast on my website. He's great. And he has neurofibromatosis, and then it's a really painful disease. But he's a bodybuilder. He can deadlift 700 pounds, and he's a vegan. Wow. So it's pretty impressive. But he was saying when he did his test, and bodybuilders, they take whey protein shakes. Yeah. So he was like whey powder, just to build all his muscle. And when his cancer report came back, it was from casein.
Yeah. Wow.
So he became vegan through the help of this wonderful chef that feeds him a vegan diet for free now, as long as he dedicates his life to spread the word.
Wow, that's great.
So
That's nice.
it's a great story. So what about some other things you use? What about ozone or oxygen? Do you use those?
I'll educate people about how to set up ozone at home.
How do they do that? Is it something you do laying on a bed, exercising? How is it?
Yeah, it can be done several ways. The ozone therapy, you need an ozone machine that makes the ozone, and you need a source of oxygen as well. So an oxygen tank or an oxygen concentrator, and you can set that up at home, and you can apply the ozone rectally or vaginally. You can put it in through kind of a stethoscope and put it in your ears. You can send it through oils and inhale it.
So do you connect the ozone machine to the oxygen machine and then you breathe it in through the thing you put on your nose?
You have to be careful with doing it that way, but because ozone can be irritating. So you have your source of oxygen. That comes out. The oxygen goes through the ozone machine. It breaks up the O2 into singlets, and then it regroups into O3. So that's ozone. And that goes through the ozone machine, and you can put it rectally or vaginally, or if you want to put it through oils, then you can breathe it in at a very low concentration that way.
So when you put it in your oil, then you can diffuse the oil and you'll get the ozone in the oil by like microscopically from the air.
Yeah, and it's not irritating to the sensitive tissues.
And can people buy these machines or do they rent them?
They can buy them. They're not that expensive. You could actually set up the whole thing if you're pretty thrifty for less than $1,000. So the ozone machine, there's some out there that are about $500. And then you can get your source of oxygen anywhere from like $50 to $250, depending on, you can spend more, but you can buy it brand new, but you can buy an oxygen concentrator off Craigslist. So I can show them how to do it. And then you need certain kind of tubing, that silicone tubing, so it doesn't break down. It's kind of hard to conceptualize, but there are some videos. And
I'm sure you probably guide people to, once they see it, it's a lot easier. And when you do it rectally, is that good for colon cancers and and female cancers and prostate cancer, I assume? But it's also probably helpful rectally for any cancer because it eventually goes in directly through the rectum into the blood and everything. Is that correct?
Yes, the rectum is actually a great place for absorption. So that ozone will go right through the tissues into the bloodstream.
And what about oxygen just in general without the ozone? Is that therapy useful alone?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, you guys, it's time to take a little break and go stretch. My favorite stretch I would like you to try is the one where you lay on the floor on your stomach and you use the palm of your hands and you push yourself up. It's called Cobra Pose. It really helps my back a lot. I try to do that several times a day. When you're in that pose, you try to straighten your arms as much as possible so you have a nice arch in your back. You look with your neck up and you hold it there. Then you come down. Do that 2 or 3 times, and I'm curious if it helps you as much as it helps me. It was recommended by a physical therapist that's really famous over the years. So try it. Meanwhile, don't forget to use the Amazon banner on the vidalspeaks.com website for all your shopping needs. I so appreciate it. And I know you guys have other companies and other podcasts that ask you to use it. So for those of you that are using my banner, I so appreciate it because it really does help support the show. Even though right now it's only a little, in the long run, it means a lot. And if you feel so inspired, you can donate from the website or you can leave me a review on iTunes, of course. Okay, let's get back to the show now.
Exercise with oxygen therapy is something that you can set up at home. So you'd want to get a oxygen concentrator that's a high flow, maybe 1 or 2 of them, and you can connect them together. There are, live O2, units you can buy that are a big bag that you hang on the wall that you fill with oxygen. You can do it that way. It's more expensive that way, but those are available. And then you put on a mask, either a non-rebreather mask or the special face mask. And you can get a stationary bike. And so you're breathing in that high concentration of oxygen. And while you're exercising, you're breathing in that oxygen. It's getting in your body. And then you do that for a minute or two, take a break, stop the oxygen, and then start the oxygen again. So you can exercise with oxygen therapy. They call that EWAT. And Otto Warburg, right, in the 30s, it was a long time ago, he discovered that a promoter of cancer is a lack of oxygen in the body. That's when the cancer cells start to change and start to change their metabolism and turn cancerous, actually.
Yeah, a lot has been written about oxygen and ozone. Which one is hydrogen peroxide? That's a type of, is that a type of an oxygenating method? Because I know people who've helped their cancers by taking drops of food grade hydrogen peroxide.
Right. H2O2. So it has the components, of oxygen. And cancer cells can't metabolize hydrogen peroxide. So I don't have a lot of experience taking the hydrogen peroxide orally. And so I don't usually recommend, do you have experience with that?
I've just read things on it. I don't have a lot of experience treating lots of cancer patients because they usually come to me when they're also doing chemo. And that's the more common thing. Right. I've had, some patients that have refused chemo, but most of the time homeopaths see them along with they're doing chemo radiation, and I pass on information about that kind of stuff. But, more just in a coaching position because I'm not a doctor, and you have to be careful what you do tell people, especially if you don't have the experience of actually using it. But I've used it on animals before. My brother had a dog with cancer that they wanted to put down, and we decided to try hydrogen peroxide along with some other herbs and some homeopathic stuff. He lived probably 3 more years.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Orally, I'm not so sure, but it can be given IV. I've given it IV. And when you think about I'm going to switch gears to vitamin C.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Vitamin C, when it goes into the cancer cell, turns into hydrogen peroxide.
Yep.
The cancer cell can't metabolize that, so that causes the cancer cell to die. So that's the mechanism of action for vitamin C.
And what milligram do you use when you do, or do you recommend?
I usually steer people towards the Riordan protocol. So they have to get a blood test, right? Before that, before they start high dose vitamin C therapy, there's a blood test that you have to get to make sure you can tolerate it.
What's that called?
It's the G6PD.
Okay.
So once that test is done, then you can go above 25 grams. So you can get vitamin C without getting the test up to about 25 grams. And once you get to 25 grams and above, then you really need to get the test.
Yeah, I've kind of always heard 50 grams. No, the people that did it was 50, but like you're saying, you're just recommending getting the test.
Get the test, get the protocol. I have the protocol. And what you do is you start at 25 grams, work your way up to usually 50 or 75 grams. And then at a certain point, you need to do a blood test to make sure your blood levels are adequate. If they're not, they can bump it up. You can go as high as 100 grams and even higher. Serious infections, I know folks that have used 150 grams or 200 grams. If someone's really sick and has a really bad infection or their blood saturation level isn't high enough, then you need to go up. But you can test that with a lab, and you should.
There's the thing about vitamin C. I love vitamin C so much because my friend taught me how to do an IV. And so I just did it for myself and my partner. But after a while, it's like I brought home, funny, from Germany, I brought home all this like IV equipment in my suitcase going, please don't like customs open this, because it was just for me, because I wanted to do these, but it made me feel so much better. And it helped him so much too, because he had a whole varied amount things that were going on. But I couldn't like reorder the stuff and get the things, so too hard to do myself still. But it's also not easy to find someone. I was saying the other day to Lloyd, I wish there was just a place you could go, like a IV depot, when you just stop in and just say, I want to do a vitamin C. Like if you feel you're getting sick and you just want to do 25 grams, you could just pay. So I put it in Google, and there's one on the corner from us, and it's literally called something like IV Drip Depot or something like this. And they do these like hangover ones, but of course it's and it's like beauty IV one and detox IV, but they don't have one that's just plain vitamin C. So I was going to call them and ask if they would do a plain vitamin C, because it is really hard. You kind of have to find a more natural-minded doctor to do it, and then it's not so cheap. A lot of these aren't covered. There's no co-pays by them, so you're paying each time you go, and then, you know, it's like it becomes overwhelming for people that want to do these treatments. It's such a great treatment. It's not that hard to do. The doctor comes and puts it in your arm and he leaves. They should have people that do this kind of thing. I always think it would be a great business for a nurse that's legally allowed to give an IV, to just do IVs, like come in and $25, do an IV. I don't know how much that stuff costs, but that's the thing that I've found. It's not so easy to find affordable places to do it at without becoming a patient of that doctor, doing all these follow-ups, doing all this other stuff that they want to do. Yeah. So that's what's kept me away from it.
Yeah. They're popping up, you know, in Southern California, Phoenix. Phoenix is big for that. Some of the naturopathic colleges offer it. So there are clinics, and I actually helped open a clinic. I got them all set up, their protocols together for the drips, like Hangover Hero. That was one. So they are around. A lot of them are a little bit reluctant to advertise too much, right? But they're there.
Yeah, and you have to find them.
Yeah. So that's what I help people, you know, help them find those places where, you know, they can go.
And then I read you do something called GB4000. What is that?
GB4000 is a Rife machine, basically Rife technology, and it uses vibration and light, if you get the MOPA with it. Vibration can kill microbes. And Dr. Royal Rife, he was around in the 30s, and he had a very powerful microscope that he saw the microbes inside the cancer cell. And he developed certain frequencies for certain types of microbes. So whether it was Lyme or all cancer, he developed certain frequencies. And I think there's over like 120 of them. Developed each frequency for each type of infection, or a certain, like just like an opera singer will sing at a certain pitch and shatter the glass. Same principle can be used for microbes in the body, or cancer microbes, because cancer microbes, you know, do exist.
You know, obviously homeopathy is vibrational medicine, so I can understand how a Rife machine would work if you have the right vibration.
Right, right.
Sure.
And so the future really of medicine is also all these energy medicines are just incredible. It's amazing. You know, there's machines out there like the Rife machine. There's a lymph XP machine that will help move the lymph, and that uses Tesla technology. It's amazing stuff. So there's, and light, different like photodynamic therapy.
Yeah, and like pulsed electromagnetic vibration. Lloyd's, my partner, has unknown neuropathy, and he's using right now this one called Beamer that has huge success. Beamer with cancer, with autism, it's such a huge detox of the whole entire body. And we're kind of testing it out. He's feeling like some new tingling in his feet, which everyone says is a good sign that maybe the nerves are waking up. But I think it's going to be a process of, you know, we'll see. Like we'll see in a year, like how much better is it? But I know lots of people that say that will help them and that it's helped many people with that. But I know people who have used this with cancers and all kinds of stuff. So,
Yeah.
And that's a PEMF, I believe.
Yes. And it's so good for bone restoration too, the PEMF. I used it on my wrist when I broke my wrist. It was a couple years ago. And so immediately it took away the pain. Immediate pain relief.
Yeah, it's funny you know about the Beamer. Not many people do. It's not that popular here, but it's big in Europe. But it's it's a big mat you put under your sheet, so you're laying on it, and they have a sleep mode where it does 2 hours when you go to sleep, and you time it so that it goes on 2 hours before you wake up. So in 4 hours in the night, you're getting a detox of all your organs and a treatment of your organs. So I'm curious to see how it'll be. We're testing it out.
Where did you get yours?
Well, a guy that I met, I'm going to have him on the show, that uses cannabis oil.
Uh-huh.
That's helping me, which I'm helping Lloyd with cannabis oil, and he recommended that we try it. So we're just renting one right now.
Oh, great. Yeah, you can rent those.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can rent those. That's great.
So anyways, I'm fingers crossed because I feel really positive that it's going to help. But I'm seeing even my knees are feeling better. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm really detoxing a lot from it. And I do a lot of work on detoxing. As a professional golfer, I was around a lot of pesticides. I left the tour because I was sick from pesticides, but I've done lots and lots of work on detoxing. I do daily coffee enemas and all kinds of, I juice every day, and still laying on that Beamer, I go, whoa, that thing kicked my butt last night. I'll wake up and I can feel I have a toxic headache. So I feel like it's great. It's really helping in the long run when you can get that stuff out, all those metals and stuff, I don't know how long that it will take, but it doesn't matter how long, as long as you just keep plugging away and getting some of that junk out of your brain, especially because that's where it's hard to detox, is the brain.
Yeah, that's true. And that's great, that there are those tools available. It's funny that you mentioned you were exposed to a lot of pesticides on the golf course. People don't realize those golf courses are just heavily sprayed with toxic chemicals, and you're picking up the ball. Your shoes are covered with it. You're bringing it into the house.
Yeah. I used to see when I'd play in pro-ams with, 3 amateurs on Wednesdays, a lot of the men would put the ball in their mouth to clean the ball. And I would say, grab their arm, and I say, do not do that. Please do not do that. And they'd lick it sometimes to take the grass mark off the ball. And that's like my pet peeve. I go crazy if I see someone doing that. I feel like, the guys on the course spraying the pesticides are wearing a spacesuit, and 40 yards behind them, the golfers are golfing. And they're in a hazmat suit. It's like, that tells you something if they're protecting them, but you can play 40 yards behind them. That's a little bit strange. Yeah. So golf, you need to, if you're golfing, you need to pay really close attention to doing a lot of detox, because they all use chemicals in America.
Yeah. And if you live in a golf course community, I lived in a golf course community, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, you're bombarded,
and you have to be careful. And the dogs are coming down with cancers. Yeah. A lot of my friends' dogs are coming down with cancers. So you have to be aware for the animals. And people are calling pest control to come spray around their house. There's natural alternatives, and we need to be aware, and we need to start taking action. Don't call the regular guy. Find one that uses non-toxic plant oils, because they're effective. That's why God put them in the plant.
Yeah, they're so good. I know. It's so much easier to do it natural, and it's so much healthier, and it's not hard to find pretty much anywhere you live now. More and more options are becoming available like that. So we have to start thinking naturally and get all those toxic things out of our life, because our body is overloaded with them. And if people think that our body system that's naturally made to detox itself is enough anymore, they need to think again. It's not. I tell listeners every day, if you're not actively doing something to detox, then it's not enough.
Right. It's not enough. Why did I get sick? Well, we're bombarded through our food, through things that we're unaware of, like golf courses, pesticides. It's in our food. We're eating it.
Exactly. It's in our rain. It's in our rainwaters. It's in our fish. It's everywhere. Our moms are birthing babies that are completely filled with toxins. And then we're vaccinating them and filling them with more toxins. It's an insane world right now.
It is. And we need, as people, we have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for. Just refuse. I refuse. I buy at the farmer's market, and I make it a point to buy from those farmers that are growing organic food. I go to them, and that's where I buy my food. I buy my food at the farmer's market. If you don't have a farmer's market, find a co-op or find somewhere that you can get it and put your money towards those people. Give those people your money, because that is where the shift is going to happen. Don't buy hair products that contain a lot of chemicals. Buy ones that do not contain the chemicals. Purposely give your money to those companies. Make those choices in your life. If you're buying a lot of bottled water and you're throwing away a lot of plastic, find a different way. Get a Berkey water filter so you don't have to use the plastic so much.
Yeah, it's really about really thinking about the whole planet anymore, because we have to make decisions that are beyond just us.
Right.
That's for sure. So Valerie, I'm curious, when you switched over to your business now, how your family and friends supported you. Did you feel any support from them or a lack of support? How was it transitioning from an oncology nurse to going on the other side?
I know. Well, it's funny because some of my close family members, I didn't really go into detail because when I did, they weren't really receptive.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually came to the point after I left oncology, I was fortunate enough to work with some alternative cancer doctors and clinics. But there came a point where I really struggled to find my place. And there wasn't a place around me that I knew of. There was, but I wasn't aware of it, where I could get work. And I didn't want to just do like home care no, I wanted to educate people about non-toxic therapies. So I struggled for a little while. And when I lost the big money that I was making from oncology, my marriage broke up. He decided, well, I guess he didn't love me after I wasn't making the big bucks. He wasn't standing, he told me, just forget about this alternative treatment stuff. And I told him, I can't. So that cost my marriage.
Wow.
And,
so it's been a real, I mean, it shows me how strong of a passion you feel for it, to realize that even at the cost of your marriage, you have to pursue what your direction in life and your life healing work is.
Yeah. And if people aren't going to support you and what you want, and that may be a husband that doesn't support you doing natural therapies for your cancer, that's a sign. You're not going to support me, just like you would support your husband or your partner if they want to pursue a career. You would be there for them, and like we can do this together.
Well, that's kind of what partnership is all about. You can't make someone think like you think or want what you want, but you have to be able to give and take. And to not have the support of your other, even if it's not what they believe in or what they want, but if they see how passionate you are about it, that should make them happy. And sadly, it's not always the case.
Yeah. And, I always think, well, how in your intuitive being that I've known for a while that this is taking me into a direction. I knew even before I knew anything about alternative therapy, because I made a decision that I was going to pursue like a higher vibrational existence. And when I did that, I knew in my mind that this was going to take me places, and it did. And I knew that it might cause some problems. My ex actually was a farmer, and he had an aerial spraying business. So he's retired when we got married, so his thinking was a lot different. he grew crops and he did aerial spraying at a business. And we lived in a golf course community that was heavily sprayed. So, and it really cost me a lot. I'm in a better place.
Yeah.
I'm still healing from that.
Right. It doesn't come without pain, even when change is absolutely, even if both people agree, it still doesn't come without pain and without the shock of the change. And I'm sure you're still putting it all together and figuring it all out. But how you haven't wavered in your path of what you need to do for other people is amazing. So the rest will fall into place, because I do believe if you're doing the work you need to be doing in the universe, then that things will fall into place and it will provide for you. And you're certainly doing great work. I know the name of your company is My Wellness Tutor, right?
Yes.
And the website is mywellnesstutor.com.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a coaching service that you can support and guide through people and advise them on what tests and therapies that they can do, and guide them step by step once they get results of things, what would be good for them to do. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else I should add to that you do?
Just the testing, help them find a doctor if they need to find one, where to go to find these, the treatments they're looking for. Help them explore options that they're probably not even aware exist. Yeah, alternative for radiation is hyperthermia or maybe cryotherapy. There are even some interventional radiologists doing procedural therapies that are available. So, and immune therapies. So there's a lot out there that is not on people's radar, that's not offered to them. So before you make a decision, look at all the options that are available.
Yeah, and I always try to tell people, don't rush to make your decisions in the Western medical world, although they're pressuring you, because you need time to find all your options. And that's what I love about what you're doing, because sometimes when you're looking yourself, there's so much out there, you can't even fathom about how long it would take you to figure out what's next. But when you can hire a coach and a mentor like you, then you could say, let's get this test done. And you can really put it in steps for them so that they can feel like they can do what you tell them to and relax a little. It's not for them to figure out and learn everything.
Right.
So
that takes too much time.
That takes too much time. And most people that sick don't have that much time. So I so appreciate what you do. We really, really need it. And I wish you all the best and success with that. And I just want you to tell people how they can find you. I already said your website at mywellnesstutor.com, but where else? Are you on Facebook or Twitter?
You can go to my website and you can contact me right through my website. You can send me a message through there, mywellnesstutor.com. And my phone number is available on the website. I don't have it. It's over there, and I don't remember the number even, but it comes directly to me. Send me a message. You can sign up for my coaching services, and I try to keep them affordable for folks. It's $99 an hour, and that gives you 2 weeks email support, and that's a one-time consult fee.
Wow, that's very reasonable.
Yeah, or you can become a member, and that's $150 a month with 2 hours of consult time used any way you'd like, spread over a period of a month with unlimited email support over a month. And so I also work with other folks, helping folks with alternative treatments. So we're all working together to get folks what they need. So it's available. There's non-toxic therapies that kill cancer cells that are available to folks that they can get. So call me. Let me tell you what those are. Yeah.
Thanks so much. It's been very informative. I learned a lot, as all my listeners have too. And I'm really excited you could share all this stuff to the world about, the reality of how the possibility does exist to heal yourself from terminal cancer using alternative treatments, and just to feel better while you're doing it. And even if you're not having cancer, to use some of these therapies to get some energy in life and to cure some of these ailments that we all think is a part of growing old that we don't really need.
Yeah. Another aspect, we didn't touch too much on it, was the emotional aspect.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. Years ago, when I decided to pursue a higher vibrational existence, and I knew it was going to change my life, I had no idea how much. And that here I am now. I live in Kauai now.
Wow.
I can swim in the ocean every day, and it's amazing. I never realized, and I'm still working on this big time in myself, how much stress we carry. I still have to tell myself every day, no, you're going to close the computer and you're going to the ocean today and you're going to swim in the water. Whether I'll procrastinate even. Why would I ever procrastinate doing that? But
because you're a helper. Because you're a helper and you're a caretaker, and people that do that have to put those things down and go do something for themselves, because otherwise you're not doing what you're telling others to do, and you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's why I moved here. Cleaner water, closer to the environment, to the earth. Shopping, they have farmers markets every day. I can swim in the warm ocean waters. I get sunshine on my skin and helping me with my vitamin D. I'm reducing my stress.
But it's true what you said about stress, because all cancer patients, you see somewhere in their history right before they got their cancer, a huge chronic stress. It can be one big shocking thing, for sure. But often it's an overload of just too much daily stress over a period of time.
Yes.
There's always the story behind the disease that.
Yes. And that's what propelled me. I thought, wow, I've got to do something for myself. Do what I'm telling other people to do. I've got to do it. So.
And when you walk that path, like you said, when you made that decision to live a higher conscious life, you never know what that's going to bring. But when you just walk on the path, it's like that saying, don't forget to smell the roses, because it's usually the walk there that you do all the learning and that you gather all the experience and all the wonderful things happen. Although it's so difficult in transition at times, it's also such a gift, because look where it landed you.
I know. I never would have imagined in a million years that this is where I would be. Answering the call to a higher, following my passion, following my intuitive, and then having life basically wash me to the shore. I've been washed to the shore of Kauai, really literally like shipwrecked and washed to Kauai's shore. Like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's so great though. And it's not easy, but it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. And then it gets better. And as you get used to it and things build for you there and you feel more connected there, then you just think, wow, I'm so thankful for my divorce or my breakup, because without that, you couldn't be where you are today. So fantastic. Everything you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing with all of us today. You're really an authentic, honest, true, healing, caretaking person. So be sure to de-stress and take care of yourself.
Thank you. Yes,
that's really important. Good. Go take a nice swim at the beach after you spoke about all this emotional stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and let's stay in touch.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Doing some wonderful work and spreading, giving the people the information they need. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that was a lot of info, but this episode will be up forever for you to come back to and listen if need be. And be sure to check out the show notes, because now I have timestamps in them to show where certain topics are discussed. It makes it really easy. Valerie's such a caring person, isn't she? And she's so knowledgeable in both worlds that if I needed her coaching, I'd feel like I had the best experience on my side. Anyways, you guys, if you're diagnosed with cancer or you just finished traditional treatments and you want to do alternative things to really heal and help build your immune system, or if you know of anyone with cancer that's looking for someone to coach them through all the options out there and they feel overwhelmed on what to do, be sure to give Valerie a call. I'm totally impressed by her knowledge and her prices. And I'm so excited that she's finally doing the work she feels put here on earth to do. It couldn't have been easy to give up that high-paying salary of an oncology nurse, but I imagine it was harder to take care of patients that were being treated in a way you know is killing them. And good for her for following her heart. Well, I hope you guys learned a lot today. And you know, of course, just because you use the word cancer doesn't mean that it only cures cancer. Building your immune system with all Valerie recommends would heal any chronic disease. The key is always to build up the immune system and remove the toxins so that it can keep the body running as it should. But we can't forget how important that emotional side to health is too. Being happy and living life with joy and having a passion is a must. And remember, most cancer comes after years of a chronic stress. So take time for yourself and enjoy your life. Listen to music or podcast, yeah. Laugh, exercise, hang out with nice, like-minded friends, and feel free. But first, to feel free, you have to feel well. And once you get well, then you can use that freedom to do whatever you want. Okay, that's it for today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the show. You know what time it is. It's time to say goodbye. Vidal has spoken. Remember, you heal with a plant-powered diet, homeopathy, and detoxing, of course. Peace. Be healthy. Be free. Live life.